Your intent is to run your business like a well-oiled machine that turns your actions into actual results at every turn. Now, I want to break down for you in this episode why there's one key core foundation that so many scaling businesses skip over, thinking that they need to jump to the next shiny thing. And what we're going to talk about here today is what it looks like to master the core foundational element of having clear and compelling messaging and communication that allows your scaling business to drive more revenue, foster more client and team retention, and giving you the reduction in workload that's necessary for you to reach to that next big business vision. Now, let's get real. Communicating your message is truly at the heart of every growth point in both your personal and your business. Whether it's communicating your needs to your partner in life or communicating your value to a potential client, the reality remains the same. Communicating your message undoubtedly is the cornerstone of long-term success. Now, what you need to understand is that messaging and communication is formulaic. We may not realize it, but with every conversation we have, every piece of content we create, every time we get into the room with someone, it all needs to follow formula if we want to be able to drive more results. Now, ideally, if we want people to go from point A to point B, we need to follow a formula that allows us to achieve this without actually working against them or pressuring them or pushing them or trying to convince them. So when you understand this formula that I'm going to break down for you here, communicating your message becomes easy and you avoid the common pitfalls and struggles that most people have when it comes to being seen, feeling heard, or actually being considered for whatever next step we're asking for. And in some ways, you might see this showing up right now in your business if it feels like you're going in circles, you're creating more content on social media and feeling like it's just not landing and resonating with your prospective clients. And maybe you're getting on multiple sales calls and you're trying to diligently answer questions and move your prospect to purchase only to feel ghosted or like they're telling you that right now is not the right time. Or maybe you're experiencing a high team turnover. It feels like you can never find just the right person because everyone you bring on doesn't seem to fully grasp the vision and the needs that you have from them. And it might also feel like you're so close to this huge opportunity, like your business is about to pop. And whether that's landing a big, huge contract that you've been pining for or having your funnel take off, whatever it might be, only to feel like those things just keep slipping through your fingertips. Now, having a clearly communicated message allows you to help people's brains naturally go on a journey from where they are to where you ideally want them to go, which is ultimately at the heart of clear and compelling communication. But right now, you're likely skipping pieces of the puzzle. You're giving a lot of information, time, and value, but it doesn't seem to translate into the results you actually want. Or maybe right now it's turning into a muffled message. You have so much to share and so much to say, but it's hard to understand or hard to hear. And it feels like maybe you've covered your mouth with a sweater and people can't really hear you. And the person or people that you're trying to communicate with on the other side are feeling it too. It's like you're skipping pieces of the puzzle and it's leaving them frustrated, confused, or overwhelmed, only increasing the sales cycle, making you have to double up your work and trying to figure out why it's not making sense. It's like telling a story and leaving out the key details, like you're talking about Cinderella, but fail to mention how she got to the ball or how she went from being a stepsister locked in the basement to the belle of the ball. It's important to realize that at the basis of having a clear and compelling message and having that communication is recognizing that there's foundational elements that make your communication actually land with the person across from you and gets them to want to take action so that everyday conversations turn into actual action within your business and allow you to spend less time on all the marketing, sales, and all the operations within your business because people actually understand what next step they need to take. So let's talk about how we developed this 4-step framework that creates powerful and really compelling communication and messaging that allows you to move people to the next step. We call this a common ground framework. Now, there's 4 key elements that create a common ground so that you can really move people to the next stage. And I'm going to break down for you exactly what this looks like and give you some examples of how you can actually see this within your business model. So the 4 key components are, number 1, you want to be able to get the point across in a single line. So this means not giving a lot of fluff and getting that across as quickly as possible. You need to be able to clearly communicate that point that you want to be able to get across. Now, number 2 is you need to know what people actually want. This is what I call a known desire. You need to know that the person or people sitting across from you have a very clear known desire that you need to be able to understand in order to craft your communication to specifically support them. Number 3 is what is the solution to resolving the known desire that they have? Number 4 is how can you get on the same page? How can you create a common ground that connects the dots between where they are and where you want them to be? Now, let's break it down for you because I want to start with an example of having a team member. Let's say that right now you're frustrated because your team happens to keep leaving projects open over the weekend and you want to stop seeing that lost momentum within the process and want to create better productivity for your team. Now, right now, it may feel like you're going to your team and you're dropping hints or you're sharing details and you're saying, how come this project isn't moving along? And you're asking simple questions, but it's not really leading to the result you want, which is ultimately for the project to be closed out on a Friday. Now, what you want to be able to do is get that across in the most simplified approach possible. So you create a clear and poignant message, which is that step number 1. So an example of this would be that closing projects equals more momentum and productivity. That is the point that you want to be able to get across, the intent that you have within one single line that allows the person across from you to clearly understand what is the result you are going for. Now, what we want to understand next is that oftentimes we give so much information to somebody, whether that's our team or whether that's a prospective client, that it becomes unclear what next step we want them to take. So that big goal for point number 1 is that we want it to be as simple as possible so that we can get it across in one singular line. Now, the second question is for us to be able to understand what their intent is. So in question number 1, we understood what our intent is, what we wanted to get across. But in any conversation, in any communication, in any true and clear movement of action, we need to be able to understand both what we want, but also what the other person wants, which is why in step number 2, we need to be able to take into consideration what their known desire is. So for a team member, their known desire might be that they don't want to close projects or they're leaving it open longer than expected because they want to make sure they get it right the first time because that allows them to have less work. Now, in a clear and poignant way of understanding this, we would be able to break this down to a formula of getting it right the first time equals less work. So we understand their known desire. Now, the third piece of the puzzle is to create a resolution. What is the resolution that allows both parties' needs to be met? In your case, that intent is that you want those projects to be closed out because you believe that creates more momentum and more productivity. For them, they want to be able to get it right the first time. So there's less work on their part. Now, the solution is how we're going to meet both parties and create a solution that's going to make both parties happy. Now that we have those 3 pieces, it's about bringing them all together and creating a common ground. Because just because we have the pieces laying there doesn't mean that they're actually coming together and creating a connection between each party's needs. So here's an example of what common ground might look like. You would communicate to your team by saying, I understand that you don't want to let anything fall through the cracks because this creates more work for you. And we want to be able to drive the momentum and productivity of having those projects closed on Friday. So what we've developed is a simple 4-part replay system that allows you to complete the tasks on Friday so that you can be done early, but be able to come back on Monday and go through this 4-part replay system within 15 minutes, allowing you to ensure that you got things right the first time and don't need any extra work to get started. This is what clear and compelling communication looks like. It allows us to bridge the gap between where that person is, where you are, and creates a clear common ground between the two of you where the resolution and the solution we provide solves both parties' problems. Now let's take the same 4-part system and leverage this from a business owner who wants to communicate to a potential client. Let's say that right now you want to master your sales communication so that you can get your message to be heard and create more conversions with premium clients. And let's say that your intent right now is that when you get on a call with a potential client, you want them to understand how your method works to create faster results using mindset reprogramming. That's your singular line of what you're trying to get across. That your yin yang success method equals faster results. That is the singular line. We want to be able to get that simplified intent across without all the fluffy language around it, which is so often what we see within marketing. This is very formulaic. It creates a very clear result pattern within the 2 things that we want to get across. But what we also want to understand is what is your potential client's known desire that they have. Now, in this case, we understand that your potential client through market research is really focused on creating predictable revenue within their business. That's their known desire. Now, they're outwardly displaying that this is what they want. And it's our goal to take both of our needs and bridge a gap between them. So right now, the solution solution we need to create is by bridging between the yin-yang method and the known desire of creating more predictable revenue. So bringing those two pieces together, the solution we create is that establishing their leadership. By becoming the leader within their industry, we can create a bridge that resolves both parties' needs. And this is how we then take this to common ground and connect the dots. Let me give you a quick example of what it would look like to create common ground between both parties' needs, the solution, and where we come together. In this example, what we would say is, we understand that you want to be able to create predictable profit. And the key to creating predictable profit is to be known and seen as a leader. This is why our yin yang success method really focuses on developing leadership through faster results of your authority. This is you bridging the gap between both parties' needs and desires and creating a common ground. It allows their brain to process really quickly how you're taking them from where they want to be to where you know is the resolution for them to be able to achieve that, and creating a common ground. This allows you to take complex, big ideas and having people on one side and bringing you to the other side and putting it together on common ground. It's this formulaic effect of everybody's needs and desires being met. This is the power behind having intentional communication and messaging that drives results. And our clients are seeing this every single day in all areas of their business, whether it's in running marketing events that now see 90 to 100% conversion rates with just a few small tweaks by understanding and applying this common ground framework, or turning dead-end DM conversations that felt like they were just being friend-zoned in being able to push it to the other side of a high-converting conversation that leads to a hell yes client, or them going from feeling like they're always going to be a solopreneur to running a lean and powerful team that fully supports and understands your vision like a well-oiled machine. This is the key to mastering the art of a results-driven communication messaging. We really want to understand that when we look at communication, we look at messaging, we recognize that when we create clear and compelling messaging and communication, it comes down to this 4-part framework. There's a formula right now, and I've laid it out for you in these 4 steps within this. So as a quick recap, so you understand and can jot these down and leverage them, the 4 parts of the common ground framework is that number 1, we want to simplify the point that you want to get across. This is in a single line ability to be able to get across what your intent is. That's number 1. Number 2, you need to be able to understand and know other people's known desires. What is it that you're speaking to that they already know and they really want? Number 3 is, what is the solution that's going to get them from their known desire to your intent? And number 4 is, how can we create a message and communicate that message that creates a common ground where we're all on the same page? I want you to recognize that, again, whether this is in personal relationships or the communication we create within our team or running a business as an 8-figure CEO, the reality is having clear and compelling communication is what's going to drive long-term results in your business. The most powerful thing you can do is be able to create a scalable business that allows the needs of both you and your prospective clients or team to be able to be met. We're no longer going to be talking at people and expecting them to come along on a journey. Instead, we're going to leverage the psychology that's recognized and creates a pathway between where they are and where we want them to be. So whether that means that your clear intent is that you want clients to get on a call with you so that they can say yes to your programs, or you want your spouse to be able to pick up the kids from school, we need to understand that intent first and foremost. From there, we're then going to understand the other person's intent and their known desire. Recognizing, anticipating, and acknowledging that is so important. And so many people skip this step of the strategy. But understanding the market, understanding the potential person in front of you and their specific needs is going to alleviate so much of the process and get people on the same page so much faster. It's this style of communication and messaging that takes the needs of both parties into play and allows you to never have to force, convince, or feel like you're pitching people ever again. And this is the answer to no longer feeling like you're doing all of the right things and not seeing the results you want. With the clearly communicated common ground framework, you're able to get people to take action and drive results without feeling like you're pressuring them every step of the way. And it's why it's been so successful for our clients. We take it from looking at broken pieces within a client acquisition system and instead focus on recognizing that communication, psychology, and messaging All of those are found within every single element of our scaling and growing business. And it starts with understanding the three core components of how the easiest method actually approaches this. Number one is developing your innovative advantage. It can be really difficult to feel like you're shouting into the abyss and nobody's listening. When you understand and identify the critical market gaps that your competitors can't fill, this is where innovation is born. This specifically targets your high intent needs and makes you the in demand and unmatched solution. So you can quit the constant fight for attention and instead let your innovation instantly capture people's attention and convey the true gravity of what you do so that your highest price programs become the sought after solution. Now, the second step in the EasyS method is to amplify that innovation. If you haven't noticed, it starts with a clear message. It starts with what that communication and what the message is that we want to bring across. Once we have that, once we have a solid foundation, then we want to amplify that innovation. We use what we call our bingeable sales system. This is a customer-driven sales system that taps into the decision psychology so that you can expedite and increase conversions, allowing you to close the gap on long sales cycles, no-shows, lead ghosting, and getting your leads to sell themselves. And it allows you to understand how you can get your message and your communication of that and your methodology to do the selling for you so you can automate conversions and have an inbox of clients reaching out to you saying, can we talk today? I'm ready to get started right now. And the last step of our proven EasyS method is that we tap into what we call our pure profit strategy. This is where we actually focus on delivering exceptional results and ensuring client retention. We achieve this by offering a scalable delivery system that not only amplifies your clients' outcomes, but also transforms them into your top performing and most enthusiastic sales team as they share their success stories with anyone who will listen. This fuels sustainable growth that leads to with transformational intent. And if you haven't noticed, everything I've shared with you, even with the EasyS method, is built around having a foundation of communicating the true gravity of your value through a message that's repeatable. And I want you to be able to go to that next step of your growth journey. So there's two options of how to take what we've talked about here today and take it to the next level. Option number one is that I want you to take that next step and apply for your growth optimization call. This call is done directly with me and there's no pressure, no convincing. I actually practice what I preach. And on this call, what we'll do is evaluate your current process for how you acquire clients and how you're communicating your message. And I'll help you understand where the biggest growth opportunities are and how our EasyS method can be applied within your business. And if we find that we can support you is when I'll make an invitation with you on next steps. Now, option number two is maybe you're new to our world or you want to get a little bit more of an understanding of how the EasyS method works and understand how it gets premium clients to sell themselves using the Netflix effect. And if you're ready to check that out, head on over to easySleads.com. We recently upgraded and enhanced our bingeable video series for you to be able to see exactly how the EasyS method works to get leads to sell themselves. Now, what I want you to be able to do is walk away from today's episode recognizing that the key and core foundation to truly driving results within your business and having a scalable business model is mastering the communication of your message. The faster we can do this, the better we can do this, the simpler we can make this, the more sustainable your growth will be long-term. And as always, it means the world to us. So if you can take a minute and head on over to the platform that you're listening to this on and rate and review or share this business real talk so we can turn innovation into a movement. But until next time, here's to keeping it real.